How's it going, everyone? Yorba Matsudude here. So today I'm going to be talking about the frequencies of Japanese and Chuvash and why their frequencies look different now in the present moment. So I made videos in English and Spanish about the frequency of Chuvash being at joy. But also in that video, the language Japanese was not in that video because I was under the impression that the frequency of Japanese was at reason. But actually, the Japanese language is actually much higher than that. And the reason why Japanese and Chuvash are higher than when I tested them before was because the previous test that I did was with the English name for those languages. So Chuvash, for example, when I tested it in English, it was at the joy frequency, which means that Chuvash is complete, confident, it's about transfiguration, and your success is my success. But it just seemed higher than that. I always was under the impression that Chuvash couldn't just be joyful. It had to be a little bit more than that. And so then when I tested it with the name for Chuvash, I discovered that the frequency was at 620, which was higher than what Sanskrit got last time, which I need to test that with the actual Sanskrit name for Sanskrit as well. For some reason, they get higher frequencies. It must be because of how our English egos, or how people that speak English, their perceptions of these languages is kind of the difference. If you're actually thinking about it from the language itself, when I am in Chuvash, speaking Chuvash with my friends or whatever, or with myself, or when I'm writing or listening to music or singing, etc., just doing my whole life in Chuvash, I feel that it's not joyful anymore. It's just something different. So basically, the frequency for Chuvash, when it was tested with the actual name for Chuvash, was 620, which is peace, but it goes a little bit up into to the enlightenment stages. So the Chuvash language has the characteristics of being a life view of perfect. And it also is the emotion of bliss and calm, and the process of illumination, and it's good for all of mankind. Would be our drive. Our drive for Chuvash is it's good for all mankind. And because of the fact that it was 620, it's starting, for people that are very spiritual and aware and awake, they could easily raise this up to the enlightenment frequency. I do it all the time. I feel like Chuvash is actually kind of inevitable. It's very it's just a cosmic language. It's like ultimate, Sometimes I feel like it's pure consciousness. Like the way that a language like Chuvash is constructed is almost like it could save humanity. That's how I feel. So the Chuvash language, definitely I can see it now, it being more peaceful and not joyful. I can definitely see that. But what was interesting was Japanese actually was at the joy frequency, which I was not expecting Japanese to be that high. I mean, before it was at reason. Reason is about meaningful, the life view of meaningful. It's about understanding, and we're all capable of learning. And so, but now it's at the joy frequency. When I used the Japanese name for Japanese, Nihongo, to test it, when I used that name, it came out as 540 joy with a life view of complete and confidence, and your success is my success. And why I'm making this video is because this is great news. I mean, I think that, it's great that, Japanese is a joyful language, and it's great that Chuvash is a peaceful language. I was really, really happy to know that I speak the world's highest frequency language. But it could be that Sanskrit, if I test Sanskrit with the Sanskrit name, it's possible Sanskrit's higher than Chuvash. Maybe Sanskrit's the world's enlightening language, and maybe it's pure consciousness or salvation of humanity and all these things. But I think that at the end of the day, though, I don't know that for sure since I haven't tested it yet, and whatever. But I just wanted to talk about this. And so, yes, I've definitely experienced these frequencies, from these languages. I mean, I feel like Japanese is all about that. Your success is my success, because I feel as though people help each other with Japanese, and it's a very difficult language, but it brings you joy when you know that you're succeeding in it. And I work with two friends with Japanese. They both teach me since I'm a beginner. I've only been studying it for a month, but it's a very joyful process. Like, when I notice when people teach me Japanese, they really like enjoy it because about that success that they're giving me, So and it helps them succeed too, because what is it like? It gives them some sort of thing. Like I think there's just that joy in it, with the Japanese. And it does feel complete. I mean, I don't really think that there's any, it's not perfect. I mean, Japanese is not like the level of Chuvash, or whatever. But that being said, it's definitely a very confident language. I mean, the way that I can express my emotions in Japanese, well, even though I can't speak it very well yet, I mean, I feel like I can feel those attributes of Japanese, confidence, for example, and the range of emotions, right? Like it's just undescribable. So I noticed that sometimes in other languages, I can't get to that, like I can't feel confident as much. I don't really know why. So it's just nice. I mean, Japanese is a great language. And then with the Chuvash, the perspective I'll take on what's been peaceful about it has been the fact that it always gets me to a state of peace in the forest. I mean, I always think I get very calm. But there's lots of Chuvash that is very blissful, so it's almost like a ecstasy drug or something. And then there's a lot of illumination, a lot of spiritual information. Your third eye will, kind of open up a little bit. It depends on the person, but mine opens up a shit ton with Chuvash actually. And then this good for humanity. I think that like I sense that because of peace is like when we have something that's at peace, it's good for all of us. Peace is good for anybody. It's like we should all strive for peace. So if some sorts of languages are getting us to that, not only certain religions, but if certain, for example, if certain languages can help us get to the highest of frequencies, then I don't think there's any excuse for us not to, start on these things. I would be willing to teach anybody. In fact, I wouldn't just be willing. I would just be like blissed teaching somebody Chuvash. I would teach them all day. And my goal is to like get everyone into Chuvash, because, and Japanese is great too. I mean, I think more people are interested in Japanese because it's just more popular, obviously. I mean, it actually makes me feel pretty good knowing that there's a language spoken by over 120 million people that is at Joy. I mean, that like for all the Joy languages out there, Japanese has the most speakers. Like, for example, Hebrew and Altai do not have that amount of speakers. I mean, Hebrew obviously has a good maybe like I don't know 10, 11, 12 million if we count all the second language speakers. But that does not compare to anything like Japanese, where there's just Japan, Japanese, all that stuff is just so impactful on our society, like anime, the way that Japan sort of influences the world and whatever. And I think the reason why I really loved anime and why I really enjoyed it is because of something with Japanese and that joy energy that I got from it, and that's why I was always really, really feeling just so like I'm amazed to watch these animes and get into these stories, and my emotions were so in it, and I felt like the Japanese language really gives you that, it's just really hard to explain. I mean, I even feel that with Spanish, which is a love language, but I feel that it also, when I watch content in Spanish or whatever, I also feel like the emotions are just so much more pronounced, So yeah, Japanese is just full of emotions. I mean, Chuvash is full of emotions, although the emotions are just more calm, so there's just not as much of a like crazy variation, let's just say, of emotions, but it's more consistent, let's just say, which is a characteristic of peace. I think peace is more consistent with the sort of vibration, and whatever, although it is interesting that we have two characteristics, calm and bliss, which most other frequencies, they don't have two characteristics for the for their frequency, meaning like this neutrality frequency has only one emotion, which is trust. So I mean, I'm sure it could have other ones, just because there's synonyms for words and there's other ways of describing things, obviously. And in fact, I noticed that Chuvash, I didn't actually find a word for peace, but I only found words for calm and for perfect and for illumination and good for mankind, but and bliss. I did find like happy or bliss, like those words. But peace is I guess in Chuvash we would just say calm to mean peace, or there's other words, because I remember thinking there wasn't a word for peace in Chuvash, but it's a peaceful language, which is why I was like trying to find a direct translation for this word, But that being said, I found like some other synonyms that were pretty much the same, such as kune, which means calm. So everyone, tell me what you think, knowing that Chuvash is actually possibly our world's highest frequency language. Maybe there is not another one that's higher, and whatever, and maybe Chuvash is one of our world's like ultimate languages. Just like when I had that experience with the DMT, and I really went up there and found that this language is directly connected to Source Creator. And I mean, like, a lot of people are going to be shocked, like some language in Russia, but I think a lot of geniuses, they find things in the world that were previously unknown to a lot of people. And so in our age of information, we will start to understand languages like Chuvash. Chuvash is the oldest Turkic language too. And Japanese is a very old language as well, and my theory is that the reason why Japanese is so high frequency too is because Japanese comes from Altaic languages too, but the divergence, Chuvash would be, in a way, you could say like Proto-Turkic, like when it separated from these other Turkic languages was the oldest. So, but anyway, so maybe I will make a video about why I believe Altaic language theory is correct, or why maybe even languages like Hebrew, Semitic languages might actually connect to those as well, and maybe Indo-European as well. And so these things, I want to talk about those things and more in detail in another video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.